Welcome to the Joe Pavich podcast. This show is all about what got people where they are today. Work-life mix, struggles, the grind, the process, and the message. Welcome to the Joe Show. Today I'd like to introduce my guest, Tanner Chidester. Tanner is an amazing guy, young guy, business consulting, over $115 million in 6 years. Absolutely amazing to me to see a young guy, making it happen. It's impressive. This show is just a couple guys getting together, getting to know each other, have some fun, and develop a friendship. So we want to hear this guy's story. Tanner, what's happening, man?
Hey, what's happening? Thanks so much for the intro. I appreciate it. And it's crazy now. 115 million sounds like a lot, but I think as I've moved into other sectors and met other people, you start to realize that I think actually the industries I've done it in have been harder.
Yeah.
It's been more work than maybe I needed to if I had different offers, and we can talk more about that. But yeah, it's been fun in the sense of I've learned so much.
Sure.
So much.
This show is almost like a watch, right? A good watch, and you see the watch and you say, man, it's a cool watch, right?
Yeah.
But it's the complications that make the watch work.
Yeah. That's
what the show is about. It's about the complications, the struggles, the work-life mix of people. What gets to become a cool watch is those complications, So I'm excited to meet you, man. Usually I'm almost 50 years old, 40.
You look great. Yeah, you look great.
I feel like I'm 20,
That's even better.
And that's always a question I ask people. I say, how old do you feel if you didn't know how old you were?
Yeah,
right?
You have very high energy. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. But I don't feel it. I wouldn't ask you that question because you're a young guy, right?
I feel older right now because of the concussion.
Oh, man. That's crazy, man. So yeah. I want to hear about the concussion. So what happened?
Yeah, so I run, I always have a pretty rigorous schedule. It's by choice, so I don't complain about it. But when I moved to Miami, I had 3 cars, and they're all supercars and stuff. And I went through that phase. But the biggest reason I got rid of them was not even that. It was just in Miami, it's specifically if you live in downtown, it's just kind of useless.
Yeah.
I live right in the heart of Miami. And so if you were to type in Miami on Google Maps, probably that's literally where I live, is right where the Google map goes to. And I had a buddy, and he got me, he convinced me, he's like, hey, bro, get a scooter. He's like, you go to the gym in the morning, you can just scoot there. And it actually went well for a few weeks. And I was like,
this is kind of easy, right?
I was like, this is kind of nice.
Get the car dirty.
And it was close. It was 5 minutes away, so it wasn't a big deal. And I was saving because I spend, on Uber, thousands a month for sure because, I don't have a car. And anyways, long story short, the gym moved. And so when the gym moved, it only went about 2 minutes further, 3 minutes further. But there's train tracks. And so what happened is, as I was scootering, the train tracks, you have to go over them in the scooter. And it was at a diagonal angle. And in my head, right before, the last thing I remember was, hey, you should probably,
hit it straight on.
It wasn't even that. It was, you probably should get off. And then it was early, and my mentality with most stuff is it's fine.
I got this,
and
man.
so I just cruised over it. Yeah, I cruised over it. Woke up in the hospital. Don't remember 2 weeks of my life. My family was showing me videos and stuff I was saying. I remember my girl was getting a little upset because we were having dinner, and she was telling me stuff, and I said, wait, what? I said, what? And she's like, I've already told you this. And she started showing me stuff, and I couldn't believe it. And the doctor just said that's part of it. Maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. But I would say from January 10th to January 24th, I don't remember anything about my life,
crazy.
Which is crazy because it's not, I can't remember because it's so long ago. I can't remember literally anything. I can't remember what I can't remember what I was wearing. I thought when I got back, my team, I was like, oh, it's been 2 days. They're like, dude, you've been out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the business was running and et cetera. So that was kind of crazy too. I felt really blessed that I had a team at that moment and that they could run stuff and stuff like that. But
it's all about that. Yeah. Back you up when the big guy's not there, it's still got to go.
Yeah. And it also gave me perspective because there's some entrepreneurs who don't have any team. And, they talk a massive game about profit margins and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but dude, when that stuff happens or something comes up, the business, you don't make any money at all.
It's got to run.
Yeah, so that's how it happened. So I'm kind of sworn off scooters now. I'm back to Uber.
Bro, thanks to God, man. You're still here, right?
Yeah.
And that's like one of those movies where their time's gone. I mean, several movies like that, right?
I looked like I got in a fight with Muhammad Ali. My entire eye, you can't see it now, but my entire eye was swollen. My whole face was purple.
Did you break anything?
I had a face fracture right here, and they didn't do surgery on it. They said it's fine, but they were thinking about doing surgery. But yeah, I must have hit the ground really hard. But I don't remember. So luckily, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't have any pain recollection or anything like that. But it's been interesting recovering because the sleep. I've noticed I'll sleep. Last night I went to bed at 10. I didn't wake up till 7.
Wow.
That's 9 hours.
That's way past your normal
like usually
sleep pattern,
like
right?
7 is like I've been sleeping 9 to 10 hours, and I'll wake up some days and I still haven't recovered. And this week I pushed pretty hard, so I think it's part of that. But it's just been interesting to watch because I'm a student of the game and I love science. I like watching how stuff interacts with the body. So anyways, that's my story.
Man, it's crazy. You know, when I was a kid, Tanner, I was big into skateboarding, BMXing. That was like my whole life, right?
Yeah,
that was fun. That was fun.
Get you a concussion.
Buddy, I got scars and no, I never had a concussion.
Really?
But you know, when you were a skater back in the 80s, I was born in 75. In the 80s, when you were a skater, you weren't wearing helmets.
Yeah, I know. It's not like now that I had that scooter thing, I don't think I get back on without one.
Yeah, it'll definitely be different.
Just because if I fall again, I'm scared of like what could happen, because they said there could be permanent memory loss, or you could have mood changes, like long term stuff like that. So
it's almost like you don't want to know.
Yeah, like
what
at this point,
get it out of your head.
Point, I'm just a little. Yeah, I'm a little.
You're unstoppable,
scared,
man. You're here, right? Don't worry about what. Don't get on Google, man. Do not get on Google because you're gonna feel like you're gonna die tomorrow, right? It's like it's like if you have a headache. Yeah. You get on Google and you go, I have a headache, and it says, you're going to live in a week. I'm kidding. But, you might have a tumor. It might be this. I mean, it's scary. Yeah. You got to stay out. You got to get off Google, man. Yeah. But, I kind of thought I was unstoppable because I used to skateboard, BMXing. Like, these new bicycles, they're different than the old BMX bikes. I don't know if you see BMX kids, but when they instead of getting off the bike, they just put their feet down. They kind of slide. Right. Some of these newer bikes, your feet are a foot off the ground. Right. The ones where your feet clip in.
Exactly. I've seen those.
The real cycles, right? So I was coming out of Walgreens one morning. It was early, kind of dewy, Mm-hmm. Nobody was on the road. And I was turning right. And those little Lego blocks, in between streets for the blind people?
Exactly.
It's like little Lego blocks, right? 100%. They can feel the little bubbles. Right. I hit one of those things, and man, I went down in seconds. And you can't just jump off the bike, right? You're clipped in.
Oh yeah, and your
I hit the ground
too. Yeah, that's
and it hurt, dude. It hurt,
good, man.
And then my chain popped off when I fell. I didn't know it, and I was kind of like, man, that kind of hurt. And I'm kind of getting up, and I go to take off, and my chain was off, and then I fell again.
Oh gosh.
And man, Tanner, I jumped up so quick because it's right by my people,
Right, you don't want to look.
It's right around like where my core is at, right? I got up, man. I looked around. I said, oh, luckily nobody saw that because that was real bad. That was a real bad one.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting, though, because, what's doing that much that quickly, so young, it's so different than me. When I was 33, I wasn't doing a whole lot. I mean, I was doing some things, right? But I was still in that selling to $1 million to $5 million, maybe $10 million a year, trying to get to 15. I'm looking at the guy that's doing 50. I wanted to do half of his. Yeah. You kind of start setting your goals. But what's it like at 115? Did you ever think you'd get there that quick?
No, I didn't. Okay. And that's, I think I'm kind of in that phase where I see other guys ahead of me now, and I'm ready for the next phase. I will say this. My goal was just to make $10,000 a month. I was making $3,000 a month as a server. I had dropped out of school with a year left. I had 3.9 GPA as an engineer, but my mentor had told me to. And I was like, dude, if I made 10 grand a month, I remember when I made 10 grand in a month the first time, I was like, I'm the man. I might as well have been at the club popping bottles. I was like, I'm the man. Like 10 grand in a month felt like a colossal amount of money because it's 3 times what I was making.
And that 10 grand, isn't it crazy? Because that 1 month, you had life by the.
Yeah, it was like I remember I picked up a girl and I was just dating her and stuff, and I just remember thinking like I was kind of talking myself up. I was like, I just had a 10K month, and I was feeling myself. Yeah. And it was life changing at the time. So at that moment, what I did is I doubled down. I was so scared to go back to where I was that I just worked even harder and harder, and so I grew very quickly. I didn't realize I was going to grow that quickly. I didn't have plans for it, but I went from $10,000 all the way by the end of the year. I was doing I'd done over $1 million in sales. So I think my biggest month had been like 150,000, something like that. So it added up to over $1 million. And then what happened is I got so many accolades and recognition. It was mostly through the company ClickFunnels. I wouldn't say their awards have as much pull as they did then, but at that time it was a very big deal. Yeah. And I would get awards and stuff, and all these trainers started hitting me up. They said, dude, like most of the people who have big businesses or business coaches or consultants, like you're actually doing business, like you have a real business. And at first I was like not really into it because of that connotation. Like I've had coaches and consultants. I was like, yeah, dude, like most of them, like they say all this stuff and they're not very good and they take your money. But after I had 15 people ask me, and I'm 25, and I said, dude, 150 G's, they're out for me 10K a piece. I was like, I gotta take it. So I started consulting, and that year, because of it, because of the referrals, because of how well I did, because I was moving very fast, I went 1 to 10 million. That was the craziest year of my life to date. Like because 10x,
that's hardest to get to that point.
10xing your business that fast is crazy. I mean, the amount of money we were making was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in the first month we did, in the new offer, we did probably 300-something thousand the first month. And then it just like doubled. And it was like I was hiring everyone and anyone, and my brothers were coming in. So
because you were having to say yes, you're having to say no to people, right? Because and people wanted to get in.
Yeah, it was.
But it's like a restaurant. You had the door shut, and they want to come in. We got seats, but you couldn't.
But I was so aggressive. I would say during that time, I gave up my health a little bit. I was willing to because I just wanted to make as much as I possibly could. And then after that year, I got more accolades, and then people outside fitness kept asking. And at first I was like, yeah, no. But then I was like, hey, if we open up, that's going to make us more money. And in hindsight, I look back at that. Maybe I should have stayed more niched down because there's pros and cons to niching down and not.
Sure.
But we went to 15. And then after that year, we opened up done-for-you offers. So ad agency type stuff or tech stuff or hiring setters and closers, because a lot of our clients will come in and say, hey, can you do this stuff? So we opened that and we made even more. So we topped out around 25 million a year. That's about the most I've ever done in a single year. And yeah, I didn't plan on that at all. But once I had success, I think my mindset was, man, keep your foot on the gas. Don't stop. Don't let up. And I think over the last year or so, I kind of felt, looking back, I didn't think I realized at the time, but looking back, I think I have let my foot off the gas a bit because, I've made so much money, and I kind of feel in this industry, at least, I had all these interviews with billionaires.
Yeah.
And at least some people at the smallest sold their company for 40 million, stuff like that. So the main thing I saw is they had internet marketing backgrounds, which was what I would consider myself, but most of their companies that got really big had very easy to no fulfillment. And so they had the skills I had, but then they moved into better vehicles.
Sure.
And Warren Buffett talks about that too. And so I think part of that has been a little why that hasn't grown past that, because that hasn't been my full focus. But the skills you can learn in internet marketing are 100% transferable to any other business, because most business owners, in fact, when I talk to VC, venture capitalists, they say, man, a lot of these entrepreneurs, great ideas, terrible execution. In internet marketing, it's the opposite. It's terrible ideas or offers, but it's amazing execution. So, for example, telling someone, hey, I'm going to help you make money, it's not really that enticing of an offer. But if you can pull that off and you can set up the funnels and the emails and the automations and the ads and like you build the team, like you can pull that off. Yeah. Imagine when you have a good offer. And that's why I'm more excited for the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because you're making it happen. You are doing that for people.
Yeah, my idea is to get into better offers and businesses. So like, for example, yours, I would consider like a better opportunity. And when you can take those skills into that, I think that's when you can make some serious cash.
You know what's awesome about you is that you recognize it early. Like, hey, man, I got something here. Most people don't, Yeah,
I think so. Well, and at least my opinion, this could be wrong. I see some guys who stay doing what I'm doing till they're 50 or 60, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want to do. But I don't want to be known when I die, unless I die early, kind of like we were talking about. But I don't want to be known when I die as, hey, Tanner was a consultant or a coach. Like, that's been great to get me to this point in my life, but I feel I can just build bigger businesses or do bigger things. And that's really what I'm looking forward to now is that's why, like, for example, Facebook, it's obviously a one-off thing, but the reason it scales so well and it makes so much money is there's no fulfillment as it scales. And so what I've actually been trying to do is think of how can I build businesses that have very easy or no fulfillment and scale those. And some of my portfolio companies, they print cash because the offer is not dependent on so much fulfillment, because you can imagine what I do with consulting, like a lot of fulfillment.
Sure.
So, we got to teach them everything. So that's neither here nor there, but it's interesting to me to at least learn that as I had interviews. And a lot of the guys who were very wealthy, they just had great offers. And that once they had those great offers and they were able to scale without fulfillment, they could go really fast because as it scaled, they don't have more fulfillment. One of the things that actually surprises me is going 0 to 25 million in 4 years with all the fulfillment we had, because we would close 100 clients a month, and they're paying us $16,000. And then we had recurring clients, you know, and so we would have a full-time coaching staff. You'd have a coach who would have, or account manager, you could call it, 50 to 60 clients at a time. So there's pros and cons, and you can't see everything.
Yeah.
But I would say the downside of that is, you know, people are representing you, and because it's difficult, there's just a lot of stuff that can happen in the sense of, oh, this guy didn't give me the right advice, or he said the wrong thing, or maybe that guy doesn't have the best knowledge in ads, but he has really good knowledge in copywriting. Like, this is one of the industries where you have to have a lot of knowledge around everything.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like, if I don't know how to do it, I'll find someone that does.
Exactly.
So for you, surrounding yourself with all these people, it just develops relationships. Like I said, you know, meeting me, meeting you, like just developing friendships, man. That's what it's all about. You know, I look back and I heard you say the first month you made 10 grand, right?
The first month I made.
Oh, no, the first month
ever,
you made
when I
10
made
grand.
10 grand.
You made 10 grand that 1 month, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy when you look back, though? You know, life was, you were kind of trying to find your way, and then boom, you did. That you'll never forget that moment. I remember back in my day, Tanner, looking back, and I had one piece of paper, and I had my bills written down. I had like 2 credit cards, and I made a decent amount of money 1 month, and I was like, oh, I'll just pay these off, and I had nothing going on. But as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, it doesn't become easier. It's harder. It's much harder now because there is so much, right?
Yeah, I think it's one thing. You either have the stress of success or you have the stress of failure. Yeah. Like you're stressed either way. It's just which do you want? Like people act like, oh, I want to get to where I'm not stressed. I'm like, bro, even if you're successful and your business grows, you're gonna be stressed. I will say 10K was an amazing moment, and then 100K. I think 100K, when I hit 100K in a month, that felt better to me than when I hit $1 million in a month, et cetera, because that was, you know, that was just a pretty big milestone. And it was, I would say, if someone's listening and they want to start some type of service-based business, 100,000 a month is probably the sweet spot in terms of you're making pretty good money and you have a pretty small team and it's pretty low stress. Because I've had a team of 0 and I've had a team of 100. 100,000 a month is probably the sweet spot, because if you're selling, 5 to 10K packages, you would have one fulfillment person or account manager. You'd have maybe 1 or 2 setters who are doing lead generation for you. Maybe you have a sales rep, and so you're mostly out of the business instead of the ideation part. So I think, 100,000 was like a 10K, and 100,000 to this day still felt better to me than $1 million.
Yeah, it's like when you're in a car and you're at 7,000 RPMs versus 10,000, right? $1 million, 120 a month.
I think it's just also comparable to where you are, so like 0 to 10,000 was 10 times my revenue, like what I was making. 10 to 100 was the same thing. You go 100 million, it's the same, but it doesn't change your life that much.
Yeah.
What can you really, I shouldn't say that. I mean, you can do more, but realistically, if you're making 100,000 a month for the rest of your life, what would $1 million do that you couldn't really do? I mean, maybe some exotic trips or jets or stuff like that, but I don't think it had as big an impact on my life.
Sure.
And that's why it doesn't sit in my memory as big a moment, even though that was still a big moment for me. If I could go back, I think the euphoria I felt from 10,000, or I think 100,000 is probably the best number for me.
Sure.
I just was like, man, I made it, dude.
I did it.
It was cool, yeah.
I was watching one of your videos and right before the show, and I thought, I'm going to stop right here. And I think I stopped the video at this point because I like the story.
Sure.
You made it. You start making it big, right? Yeah. You go to a party. I think you go to a blowout party in Miami.
Yeah, that's my party, yeah.
$40,000 for the floor, right? Mm-hmm. You made it. Yeah. And you're telling somebody your story and they just said, okay, cool. Tell me that story where you were talking about what you did and you just got kind of a kickback and thought, geez.
Yeah, so I was a man on a mission. I remember I saw a guy, I don't know if you know him, his name's Billy Jean. He's a pretty successful entrepreneur. He's been kind of in the information space for a while. And I saw him do an ad, and he was in San Diego in his mansion. And the ad, I don't remember what the ad was about, but it was talking about, why does a doctor make more than a janitor? He's like, the janitor works harder than the doctor, blah, blah. Anyways, I remember seeing that, and I said, dude, I remember he said he does $1 million a month, and I remember saying, dude, if this guy does $1 million a month, I can do $1 million a month. And it wasn't from a cocky way or disrespectful way. It just, I looked at the guy and I said, what does he have that I don't? And that's just how I was raised. I've always met people. I said, man, like, I'm inspired, but it's like, if he can do it, I can do it. And a lot of people, they have the opposite. They're like, oh, he must have got lucky. He has wealthy parents, you know.
Yeah, you weren't hating at all.
I don't align with that, yeah.
Yeah, you were just saying, hey, man, I could do this.
So that was when I started my journey. And this was after I was already making money. And so my goal was to hit $1 million in a month. We did it in 18 months. So I went from 0 to $1 million in a month in 18 months, like revenue. And
it's crazy.
Yeah. So when I hit that goal was so big in my mind that I was like, bro, when I hit that goal, like I have made it. Like, I just remember thinking I'm a different person. I'm a different breed. Like, anyways, this goal was so big in my mind. And so it was so big. In fact, I feel bad now. It felt normal at the time, but I remember it was my girl's birthday and I'd forgotten it was her birthday. And I worked the whole day. And then I finally remembered and I took her to dinner. And then as soon as we came back from dinner, I went right back to work. And I was in such a grind mode, it almost like harmed my relationships because I was like, I got no time. I got like, this is it. I got to put all in on this stuff. And so I had this party and I invited my friends and stuff and my friends invited other people. I was like, dude, bring whoever you want. Like it was in that, I was like, bring whoever you want. Like I freaking did $1 million a month. We're going to have a freaking blowout. Like I'll pay for everything. Whatever. And so like you said, someone showed up and I didn't know who they were. And they were like, wow, this place is sick. And at the time I was living at 1000 Museum in Miami, which like Dave Grutman lives there. The Kardashians will be there. David Beckham lives there. I remember my video guy at the time, he's a big soccer fan. He saw David Beckham and his mouth dropped and David Beckham was laughing. And so it was just the richest people in all of Miami, usually.
Did he come to your party?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. In fact, one of the reasons, like, I didn't like it that much because I never saw anyone. But there's only 80 units, and the people are. I just think everyone in there is so successful that they're never there because they're busy or whatever. So this was years ago. Anyways, long story short, the guy's there, and he looks at like he's like, hey, why are you having this party? And I'm glowing with pride. I said, yeah, I hit $1 million in a month. I just spent the last 18 months like I killed like 16 hours a day. Like going to. And he's like. He doesn't care. He's like, cool. And he like turns around and it was in that moment I thought, wow, like this dude doesn't give a shit. Not only does he not give a shit, he doesn't even understand what I just said. It was like Elon Musk saying, hey, I just built, I just got to space. And someone's like, oh, yeah. And
cool.
You're like, dude, do you understand? So it was in that moment. The next day I woke up. I finished the party. I actually went to bed early, and I finished the party finished, and I woke up, and I was actually really depressed because I looked out the window and thought, man, if I can do $1 million in a month, which 99.9% of people will never do, and nobody cares, what does that mean for Oprah Winfrey? Bro, I was like, I bet there's people who don't know who Mark Zuckerberg is. I bet there's people who don't know who Barack Obama. Like, I just started thinking people in my head. And I started going on this path of self-discovery, I guess you could say, and I was kind of like, what's the meaning of life and all this stuff, and so I was doing therapy, and I was talking to religious leaders, and like, my opinion is this, obviously everyone has a different opinion what the meaning of life is, but I remember I talked to one of my good friends who's very successful. He's going to be a billionaire probably next year, and he said, dude, he said, why does there have to be a meaning to anything? He's like, you're so consumed with this thing. He's like, why does there have to be a meaning? And
sure.
I said, well, I mean, there's got to be a meaning because if there's no meaning, he just said, bro, look. He's like, you can like knock yourself out until you're blue in the face trying to figure that out, or you can just, you like business, so you do it because you like it and leave it at that. And I think it's a little more nihilistic thought process, and I wouldn't say I'm 100% nihilistic, but in that moment it helped me because when you can't figure stuff out, like, for example, I was talking on a different podcast yesterday. I said, why are guys made so different than girls? Like, what is the point of that? In the sense of, I won't even get into what we were talking about, but I just very different, right?
Yeah.
And that really helped me, and it kind of got me centered, and then I went back to doing the grind, and I started having a little bit more balance when I realized, not balance, I shouldn't even say that, it's not balance. I just think I realized it doesn't matter if you hit the goal. It just matters if you try your best, because if I had failed to hit $1 million in a month, but I had put in the same effort that I had put in, I would have been so proud of myself.
Sure.
And I think even in times now, when the other week, like I fell off a scooter, I could have died. And I had a friend who said, hey, you could have died. I looked at my life and I thought, man, bro, I fucking went all out.
Yeah.
And I think the thing for most successful people when we die is we'll feel content if we feel that if someone else had lived out a life, they wouldn't have done any better. Our life wouldn't have looked any different. That's my biggest thing. Because I've realized that no matter what I accomplish, it just won't matter. Like, no matter how much money I make, no matter what I do, there's going to be people who, like, won't care. And so if you're just doing it to get accolades from other people or their approval, it won't matter. I think it's more about a personal growth process. And to me, it would make sense that if I could create these big companies or I become a billionaire or whatever I want to do, that the person I have to become to do that would be an exceptional version of myself. Meaning I have to be, like, let's say to be a billionaire, I have to be really smart, I have to be really creative, I have to build a team. It would only make sense that to do that, I become a better person because the traits and characteristics I would have to build would come with that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just look at, oh, he's a billionaire, he's an a-hole and stuff. But to me, it's just trying to become the best version of myself. So that was the day after that, I got less attached to the goals, and I've hit bigger goals. I hit $2 million in a month is the highest I've hit so far. But that got me a little bit more unattached to the outcome and caring a little less. So I think it was an overall positive.
Yeah, and you probably only told one or two people that you're friends with. You didn't tell someone at a party, right?
Yeah. And
you kept it on your hip.
Right. And but it was interesting to me because I think as a kid I got bullied so bad and I was made fun of so much that when I started excelling at sports, I started to get respect. And so I think I viewed making $1 million in a month as the same thing, like, yo, I'm going to get respect. And yeah, people respected me, but they just don't care. And then I realized, man, if I'm going to live my whole life to try to get respect from other people that don't care, that's like a waste. And so I think that just took me on a little bit of a journey to figure out, why am I doing this?
Sure.
And for me now, I just genuinely want to be the best I can be. And so every day I try to get up and be the best I can be.
Yeah.
And like the actual best. And, you know, people will talk about that, or I see Michael Jordan and David Goggins, those are probably two good examples. But when you've actually accomplished something and you've done your quote unquote best, the thought that will come to your brain is, well, if I can do this, then I can probably do that. And so the journey will never end if you're that type of person, and for better or worse, because every time you hit a goal, you know you can hit more.
Yeah.
Like if I hit $2 million a month, then why can't I hit 4? Why can't I hit 5? Like if I've met billionaires, why can't I be a billionaire? What characteristics do they have that I don't have? And at least that's my mindset.
Well, they always say athletes have a good chance at making money in the business world because of their drive, right?
Yeah.
They just keep pushing for more and more. Some do. Yeah. Some do. Others that are a little bit lazier in sports,
or they let bad people in that give a bad advice, I think.
That may translate to life. But it's amazing, though. It's like you create these goals, you beat them, you exceed them, and you think there's like a big celebration for Tanner, right? Or for Joe.
Cares, man.
Joe sold 10 million. My goal was always 10 million when I was younger. I was 22. I wanted to sell 10 million in sales
Oh, that's
a year.
amazing.
And then I wanted to sell 10 million. And that means that if I sold 10 $1 million homes or 20 $500,000 homes or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like when I got there, though, I was expecting there to be like no one cares. Only people that care are the people that love you, you know, your family, your friends, you know.
Yeah, I'd even say your family and friends, they don't even care in the sense of they just want you to be okay.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of family members and friends, usually when you try to start businesses that are risky, will tell you not to.
Yeah.
Because they don't care if you make $1 billion. They're just like, bro, I just want you to be okay and like be able to afford your mortgage.
Yeah, that's right.
It's crazy though.
That's good advice. Yeah, you have a couple different tree branches in life, right? You kind of got in the beginning when you're in school. We want to get big. We want to get strong, right? That's the most important thing in high school. Date the hot cheerleader, you know, be popular, right?
Pretty much.
And you think that's your life. Yeah. And all of a sudden you get to college and you realize now there's a bunch of cool people, good players on your team, right? Everybody's good. And then you want to start making money. Then you start making money, you start setting these goals, and you think you know everything, right? And you get a little bit older, I'm 49, as I told you. You learn so many things as life goes on. It's like, I want to talk. You have any kids?
Not yet, no.
When you gonna have kids?
I probably will, yeah.
When you have kids, coming right back here, me and you.
Because people say they're life changing.
It's just everything. It just changes, you know, for the better. It's like you evolve as a human so much differently in life. It's so crazy, and that's kind of why I'm doing the show. It's like after 25 years of real estate, I realized that these messages I give out to people are helpful. They like the inspiration. They like to hear the grind. They like to hear that we all struggle to get where we're at. Mm-hmm. Some people buy, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Bitcoins at $20 a piece. They take a risk. It becomes $2 billion, right?
That's crazy.
The grind, it's crazy. But they didn't have the grind. There's no book because there's no grind.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to do this, to pass the message out to people. Hey, man, we all struggle. Because I'm a real estate agent, I got billboards. I've sold almost $2 billion. But I feel like I'm just now getting my foot in the water.
Yeah.
With all this other stuff. You know what I mean?
And for anyone listening, the thing is, you think you want, the Bitcoin story, but you don't, because to have an extraordinary life, you have to do difficult things. Anyone you respect or look up to, I guarantee you the reason you look up and respect them is because they've accomplished something hard.
Yeah.
And it was hard because they did difficult things. So if you want an ordinary life, just do easy stuff all the time. Never push yourself. Never do anything that's not risky or is going to take effort. So to me, that helps me know I'm going on the right path, because if I want to have an extraordinary life, by default, that should mean I should have to do difficult things. And one of two things will happen. Either you'll hit the goal, which is amazing, or you'll have the story. When you die, you'll be like, bro, I tried to compete against Elon Musk and I lost. They're like, dude, did you really? I just think a lot of people, they get too caught up in what society thinks. And don't get me wrong, it's not fun to be broke. It's not fun to be poor. It's not fun to have a bad car. I've been there. But I just don't care that much anymore. Because if you think about a guy at my level, I had 3 cars. Now I have no cars, and I Uber everywhere. And that was an ego hit for a second, because what are people going to think if I'm Ubering and I'm not driving a Lamborghini SVJ? But after a while, bro, this is so stupid.
Especially in Miami too, because what do they say?
It's a dime
a red
dozen,
Ferrari
right?
in Miami would be like
it's a dime a dozen.
Would be like a Tesla, Model 3 here or something like that. But yeah, it's truly amazing. And if you look at the history and all the things that we've all done, writing the book, right? You got to write a book, man.
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay.
I need to do a better one. If I could go back, I would have done it better. But it's called Infinite Income, and it's a little bit about my journey, what I learned, and what I went through. But yeah, I think going back, I should have spent more time on it, because one thing I've learned is, some things you can only do once, and so that book has my name on it forever. And I think I could have done a few more reiterations to make it better.
Keep going, man.
Yeah.
Do the Tanner now. And do the BC, Tanner BC, before Christ. Before it all happened, But it's funny, because we have these goals, we get to them, we beat them. I'll tell you about a goal I had earlier on. So, I was a couple years in, back then, Tanner, in the 2001 range, 2000. Home values around here were like 300, 400,000, right? Getting $100 million in sales like you see people doing today wasn't possible, but I'd have to sell the whole town because the town was so small. Yeah. And I saw this guy sitting there, and he had a nice tailored shirt, sleeves cuffed up. He had the black Submariner watch, the Rolex, right on his wrist. And I said to myself, oh man, I'd love to have that watch. That watch was about $8,000 at the time. And I could not, that watch was so far out of my reach, right? Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to reward myself. You do something good, you reward yourself. And I never worked against, I never told people not to do that. Set a goal, achieve it, and do something for yourself. Mm-hmm. So $10 million, I said, I'm going to buy myself the Submariner Rolex.
Those are good, but yeah, that's, by the way, I didn't do that, but that's a good goal, yeah.
And I did. And I wore the stuff, and I still have it today. When I put that's awesome. Damn watch on, Tanner, it brings you back. It's like an old, like your first cologne, or like your, a smell, or an old song, or an old movie. It just kind of brings you back. And it's like when I go to look at my watch, I could almost tell, I could see a time, like a time warp back in the day when I was just trying to find my way.
Good for you.
And then I kept pushing, and you had a list of people, right? A couple guys at the top, and you said, man, I want to get to where he's at, or she is at, one of the two. And I worked my way up the totem pole. And my dad was somewhere in the middle. And I said, I want to sell more than my dad sold, because my dad's in real estate too. And maybe 5 or 6 years in, I did. I beat my dad by quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And then I just started working my way up the ladder. I said, if I sell 20 million, I'm going to do this. If I sold 30 million, I'm going to do this. And then I became like this luxury agent around here, where people were like, oh, you sell all the luxury stuff.
That's the best.
And I'm like,
you sell the expensive stuff. It's like, yes, I do.
And I was like, no, like you guys think of me that way? Because I didn't even know. I didn't know what people, because I wasn't worried so much. I was just, the economy got terrible in 2007. I got burned. Everybody has stories of what happened.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about your grind in a little bit, but
Sure.
got burned in 2007. And I wouldn't put the news on because it was all negative stuff. I stayed in my lane, and I just kept going, man. I just kept going. And then I got to the top of the totem pole. I beat everybody, around here.
Does that make real estate hard, knowing that there's going to be a recession every so often?
It does. It does, because it's coming.
What do real estate agents say?
It's almost
What's
like
the mindset?
they just panic and they freak out. And it really, I think a lot of time what it does is it almost paralyzes people, And I tried not to let it paralyze me. I wouldn't listen to people. I wouldn't pay attention to what everybody else was saying. I want to stay focused and just do what I'm doing. And I did that. I worked through 07, 8, 9.
That's amazing.
I remember in 07, I was selling more than $10 million a year then. But then I bought some property and I got burned, And then I had to borrow money from a buddy of mine. Borrowed money, paid it back, got through the tough time. And then I brought a client into one of these high-rise units over here. And they were paying a real estate bonus. And I made double the commission in the worst market ever. I used it all to market myself in a down market. So then I started getting bigger. I got billboards, I started doing commercials. I kind of took it to the next level. And then over time, it went good, until now. Now it sucks. 2024 or 5 haven't been the greatest years, but I've been putting more into marketing because I'm like, if nobody else is marketing and I could market myself in a terrible, terrible time, that even puts you even further ahead, and you just keep doing. But there's always people on that list. Like if you're at the top of that list, right, you get 14,000 people that are looking at you. They want to get past you, right? You can't take your foot off the gas.
No, you can't.
Because before you know it, man, I'll be back down here. You just can't get complacent, man, and that's the drive.
I think you said something that hit the head on, is even when you set goals, you hit the goal, and then you're like, oh, I hit the goal, like I can kind of relax. I agree 100% with what you said, is when you relax, it will show up at some point. You may not see it in the first month or the second month, but I think even looking back at last 2 years, I've made so much money that hypothetically I don't have to work anymore, right? I could live a pretty good lifestyle, make quite a bit of money passively. And it's not that I wasn't working, but I just think I wasn't working as hard. Like I was still working hard, but I wasn't trying to innovate. I wasn't trying to make new stuff. And I was kind
of control.
It's good enough. It's good enough. And looking at it now, I agree with you. It's that I think that's what makes people so successful. It's just there's never an off switch. They're always trying to push the limits. They're always trying to innovate. They're always trying to do new things. And ultimately, that's really what it takes to win, because if you don't, other people are doing it. And some just started, or some are later in their career, but that's not really how you get rated in society or in the marketplace. It's just whoever has the best product wins.
That's right.
So you always have to try to have the best product. So I think that's why also not being tied to outcomes and more making about personal growth and who you want to be, because there's times you're like, man, this is never going to end. But I think I've seen the other side where I've taken a break. I took a 6-month sabbatical for my business a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it, but I just woke up and I just thought about myself all day, every day. That's all I did. And after 6 months, I came back and I worked, and I did not realize. I was like, wow, I felt like shit, because I don't think the more you think about yourself, it just gives you time to go, oh, well, how do I feel? What should I? Those thoughts is what ruins your mood and puts you in a bad position. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because sometimes you get so much focus on the goal that you don't worry about the moment, right? You gotta enjoy the moment. And some of the richest clients I've ever dealt with have said to me, Joe, don't do what I did. Don't focus on the money. Focus on life, kids. If you have kids, family, focus on them, man, because you can make money, but you can't take away time. Yeah, I thought, man, that's deep. I just got the chills by saying that word, because it's so true. I got 3 kids, so I have this. I do have a pretty good work-life balance, and it's hard. It's hard to do, man. It's hard to find the right mix.
Yeah, I think a lot about what happens after death, and obviously there's, theories and religious beliefs and et cetera, but, they always say money doesn't matter, and I would agree with that, because when you die,
Yeah.
everyone forgets
They
you.
always say you're going to bury your money. You're going to bury your money.
Betty White, I remember when she died, it was like a week, and then Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, man, he died a couple years ago. Nobody talks about much anymore except once a year.
Kobe Bryant. No, Kobe Bryant. I mean, you think about that. It's like if Kobe Bryant can die, you or I could die.
Yeah, and
it's
no one
scary.
cares. So the only reason I bring that up is sometimes I wonder, because obviously, let's say there's an afterlife and we all meet, I'll be curious to see what would matter, or would people be ranked still, or it's that guy back in the 1800s made $1 trillion. I obviously don't know, but I think how life is right now, not knowing what happens after, I would agree that again what you accomplish, no one's going to probably care about. And even if you accomplish amazing things, let's take Warren Buffett, he's going to die soon, and he's one of the best business owners, investors of all time, and they're not going to talk about him after.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very sobering fact to know. You got to do it. I think it's not just do it for you. You're doing it to level up and become a better person. For example, when I'm trying to grow these companies, I have to learn patience. I have to learn hiring. I have to learn firing. I have to learn how to deal with tough situations, all these things. And you really see how you are as a person.
Yeah.
And a lot of moments where I have guilt or shame, I look back and I just go, I could have handled that better. That's not who I want to be. So I think a lot of the stuff we go through, I don't know the deepest purpose, and we could talk about that, but I think ultimately we're here to try to become a better version of ourselves. And all this stuff, maybe hypothetically, if it doesn't matter, we'll just look back at it and laugh. And money, ironically, it's kind of one of those things, it's a made up thing. It's kind of funny because it's such a vital part of life, but it's just made up. It's just paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all. It's a human-made thing. So I don't know about you, but at least sometimes I'll get kind of deep, and I'll be thinking.
But that's a good point. It really is. Because when you said that, I was thinking the same thing. The more people you could impact, when you do die, hopefully we never do. Hopefully they find a cause, a way.
Come on, Brian Johnson.
Dude, you can't invent something that could make us live to be 250. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to leave the earth, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you look at life, right? And you're like, man, I want to impact as many people as I can. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and I think it just all goes back to when you have real fulfillment. It just has to be you doing your best, being in moments that most humans are reacting. So I have a mentor. He's I don't know what he's worth. I don't know his entire worth, but it's over 9 figures, and he works with very high level individuals. He's worked with Tony Robbins' son, and I'm pretty sure he's worked with Oprah's assistant, some pretty high level people. And he does all mindset coaching. And I'm usually not the biggest on mindset because I'm oh yeah, it's whatever, it's woo woo. But he told me a story that I think people should hear. He went to a prison one time. He doesn't see and hear very well. He's an older guy, and he was FaceTiming like this. And there was a prison guard looking at him. He thought he was recording him. So the prison guard picked up a rock, threw it at his car, very expensive car, $250,000 car. Don't know what type, but it was a supercar. And he goes, well, what would you do in that situation, Tanner? I'm like, I tell that guy to F off and tell his, PO officer. And he goes, you know what I did? I said, what? He said, I walked up to the guy and said, dude, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that I was upsetting you. I can't see or hear that well. Would you mind if I spent 30 minutes with you? And I was like,
wow.
But I was like, how do you do that? And the reason I said that is I said, if someone punches me in the face, I'm going to punch it back. He goes, most humans go through life reacting. So, and the reason they're reacting is they've never been in that situation before. They never thought of it. He's like, what I do is, he calls it a document. Some people call it manifestation, whatever. I like the way he does it better. It's a little more logical, and I'm a logical thinker. But he goes, I write down everything I want to be on a daily basis, and I say it morning and night. And so when I get in difficult situations, those thoughts come to my head, and it makes me act differently. And that was the most logical way it ever been explained to me, because I've talked to a lot of mindset people, and some people go way out there, and they're like, yeah, you run this crystal through your, and I'm just like, dude, it's a little too much for me. But that was profound to me to think, man, like he is in the exact same situation as the average person. Most people will get extremely upset, cuss someone out, do whatever. And
fight back.
And he acted that way. And he said the way you change and you can act that way is you prepare beforehand. And so I think that plus the stuff we go through in life, if you can become that person that you write on that piece of paper, someone you'd be proud of, I don't know. I don't know what the end purpose is or if it's going to mean anything, but that to me seems, when I talk about that, I feel good, and it makes me feel like that's the direction I need to head. And when I'm not that person, so when I get in a tough business situation, I'm like, yeah, mother effer, I do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I look at that and I go, that's not.
I'm not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You gotta listen.
And there was a time I didn't know how to change, and I asked him. I said, how do I change? How am I supposed to react differently when someone? And he says, it's that paper, bro. Because he goes, when you change your thoughts, you'll change your words change your actions will change your life. Nice. Anyways,
have you done that?
Yeah, I do. And I notice when I have more problems, I'm not reading my document. So I call it a document, and like some of the stuff I have in it is, I'm the world's best husband. I'm not a husband yet, but when I get in a tough situation with a girl, I go, what would the world's best husband do? That's what I mean, because sometimes, like, no offense, it's just like you're in a relationship, they do some stupid shit. Yeah. And you're like, you're a mother effer, And I think in those situations, having that has really helped me, because if I say twice a day, I'm the world's best husband, I'm patient, I'm kind, I'm empathetic, like I'm a strong and powerful leader. People love working for me because I put them before myself. When I get in those situations where I have an option to exert authority, I think, and maybe quote unquote make the wrong decision, like that has really helped me. And then when I look back hours later, when I calm down, then that's where the pride comes out. I'm like, I fucked that moment up, like in a good way. Versus usually I look back and I go, oh man, I should have kept my cool. I think that makes the biggest difference because all of us have emotions, and I think the reason we have them, again, not to get too deep, I don't know for sure, but I think we have them to learn how to conquer them. Like, I don't think the way we feel is how we should act. I think it's how do we feel, and we do stuff differently. And if you look at the most successful people in sports, athletics, business, they're doing stuff regardless of how they feel.
Sure.
So to me, that kind of would make sense, that if you have something that helps you in those tough moments and you act differently, that's when you're going to get to the highest level version of yourself.
So Tanner, you're 33 now. You were 20. How old were you when you started? 25, right?
25. Yeah, okay. I had kind of a late start, so to speak. It's like you see 18-year-olds now. I'm like, man, bro. Yeah. I wish I was 18. Yeah. Like, you got a crazy head start.
Do you ever look back at when you were 25 and you almost get annoyed by how you were when you were younger? The way you acted or the things you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's normal. I still do. I mean, I'm probably going to look back when I'm my age now and be like, bro, you're such a knucklehead.
It's almost like you feel like two different people, right? I look at when I grew up, I wasn't this, guy with a podcast and a couple billboards and this good dad. I was an idiot when I was younger. And I look back at the times and I'm like, why did I not recognize how much of a knucklehead I was when I was younger?
Yeah.
Because it takes time to develop these pages in the book.
One of my mentors, I think he said to me, Tanner, you've gone through some difficult stuff. Like I had some stuff where I moved out of my parents' house and didn't talk to them for a couple of years, or I stopped going to church, and like I kind of went like way off the rails, so to speak. And he said though, he's like, you know what, dude, because you've gone through all those things, you're really empathetic towards people. You really like try to understand. I can relate to a lot of people through hard stuff.
Sure.
Because I've gone through some hard stuff. And so with that being said, I look back sometimes and I'm like, wow, what a knucklehead. But the benefit is I have a really good way of connecting with people and understanding, because they'll say, hey, dude, I went through this. Like, bro, like when I was this age, I did this. Like I didn't talk to my parents for 2 years. So in a sense, like, could I have gone back at 25 and handled that better? Sure. Like, should I probably have stopped talking to my parents for 2 or 3 years? Probably not. But I think in hindsight, the other thing is it kind of prepares us for these future moments. That's at least what I like to think. Yeah. Because I do think when I'm like 40 or I'm 50 or I'm 60, I'm going to look back. Every 2 or 3 years, I'm like, what an idiot.
And you can relate to other people's stories, right? Yeah. The struggles and the grinds and things they've been through. You could say, hey, man, I've been there. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love this show so much. And that's why you would think, why would he want to talk to people all day?
Oh, yeah, you learn
Just develop new friends, man.
Yeah, and you learn stuff. I just love talking to smart, high-level people because of what I learn. I'm very interested in how people think.
Sure.
Like, why do you think that? Why, what, like, you know, it's not even about being right or wrong. I just get very interested in how people think or how they approach life.
What makes the watch tick.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the darker times of your life, right? Let's talk about some of the darker times in our life. We've all had those times, right? So tell me about some of the times where, you know, you took 6 months off of work, or you didn't talk to your parents for a few years, or, you know, tell me some of those times, you know?
Yeah. So for the listeners, just all the context, you know, these are going to be the worst times of my life. They may not sound that bad. I think if, you know, for someone, their cat dying is the worst thing that could happen to them. And then, you know, there's someone who's on Ghana or Kenya, and it's like they're getting chased around with a spear. So this is all in context, but I would say as a kid, there's a few phases. So at 12 years old, I was bullied a lot growing up, and at 12 years old, I realized it. There was one day I was in school, and I just finally realized they're laughing at me. I used to, like, I'd see people laughing and stuff. I was like, oh, what's it? And I finally realized that really hurt.
Where was this, by the way?
This was middle school. This
where?
Texas.
Okay, Texas.
Yeah, this is Texas.
Is that where you were born in Texas?
No, I was born in Salt Lake City. I moved to Texas when I was 8 because of my dad's job. And I just remember being so hurt because I had a really pure heart. And that set me on a path in the sense of I got a lot of dark energy from that. I said, Dad, I went home and I said, I'm going to start working out every day. And the reason was I was going to beat these kids up. But what happened after is I got all these, you know, wow, Tanner's so jacked, Tanner's this. A girl started being nice to me, and I was like, you know what? Anything you want in life, you can get it, but you got to work for it. That somewhat did help me, but that was a hard time. The next hard time was when I was 18, so I was about to turn 19. I was raised in the LDS, from Latter-day Saint Church. Some people know it as Mormon. And at 19, you're supposed to go on a church mission as a male. And I had a girlfriend at the time that I'd been dating for a couple of years. And at the time, I didn't know because I was young, but I was like, do I love this girl? But looking back, I did. Like, I definitely loved this girl. Like, me and her really connected. And my parents forced us to break up. And one day I just got in the car or before I got in the car, she was crying. I'm like, why are you crying? She's like, my parents said your parents called and so we had to break up and and all this stuff. And that really messed up with my relationship, and it really messed with my head because I thought, man, if I do all these things I'm supposed to do, if I have straight A's, I go to school, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, like there would be parents who were like, dude, Tanner's like, I wish Tanner was my kid. And my parents still did that. I thought, man, religion must not be that good. And that kind of set me on a very dark path where I didn't talk to them for a few years. I went off to college. I had no communication. That was a hard time. And it was also hard because a week later, you know, probably because she was trying to move on, she just completely flipped. And I think that maybe has had some effect on my future relationships because I have a very hard time trusting people. I'm always kind of like waiting. I'm like, hey, when are they going to
break up?
Yeah. So that was a very hard time for me. I think the next hardest time was when football ended. You know, I had plans to play in the NFL. I was 22. And I had multiple shoulder injuries. I don't think I was good enough, to be frank, because I like just being frank.
What school did you go to?
Oh man, I went to BYU, and then I also went to Arizona Western after because I wanted to transfer A&M. Arizona Western at the time, it's not around now, but at the time it was one of the top JUCOs in the country. They had just won the national championship. For whatever reason, they just stopped it. But I played with at least one first-round draft pick on that team. There's a second round. There were some studs on that team.
Did you get drafted? Did you get a scholarship or a walk-on?
No, I had a scholarship, yeah.
Nice.
I had a scholarship, yeah. And what happened is especially when I went to, so I got to BYU, tore my shoulders. Was like, didn't like the school.
Did you say shoulders?
Shoulders, yeah. Both my labrums.
Oh, wow.
I've had multiple labrums. My labrums are jacked. And then I went to Arizona Western because I was like, I don't like BYU. I want to get out of here. But, you know, most of the schools are like, I mean, dude, you tore your shoulders, like, shows you can stay healthy and play. So I went to Arizona Western, and no joke, the first practice after months and months and months of rehab, I tore them again. And I just remember taking my helmet off, I threw it on the ground, and they were like asking me, people were saying stuff, and I just kept walking. I was so demoralized. That was a hard time, and that's where I dropped out of school. My mentor convinced me to drop out of school. I had 3.9. He's like, dude, look, like sports didn't work out, whatever. You know, you're not an athlete, you're not a rapper, not whatever. But I always had wanted to be someone important. And so I just went with it. But that was a tough time because my girlfriend at the time broke up with me because of it. And a new girlfriend. Her mom thought I was stupid. My family thought I was stupid. To be honest, I thought I was like, bro, I must be crazy. Like, this ain't going to work. No one in my family's ever had a business.
Yeah.
first-time entrepreneur. So there was that, and then
so everybody was against that decision, obviously, and
Yeah.
that probably put you in an even further spiral, right?
So that was a really tough time for me, and then
You're what time? What, about 20?
yeah, 22. And then, I went over the $1 million a month, and that doesn't sound bad. I know it's like, oh, boo-hoo, you hit $1 million in a month, but to really go through the meaning of life and why you're doing stuff, I think everyone gets that at different places. When I was young, I just was so poor and broke, and I was so wanting greatness that I didn't really think about it. I was just like, look, I want to play in NFL. Okay, that didn't work. All right, make $1 million a month. And so pretty much my whole life until I would say I was 27 at that time. Because it happened pretty fast. 27. I pretty much had just not thought about it. So that was difficult. And then more recently, I'd say in the last 2 years, I've had so much success and fame and accolades and stuff like that. And like, I'm a 6-foot guy. I'm like decent looking. Let's just say that. Like I've had, I think because I don't know if it's that girl situation. I try not to read too much into stuff. Like sometimes it's like, I am this way. It's like, why? It's like, oh, my mom at 3 years old, I don't know. But I had a really hard time with girls in the sense of which way should I go, right? Because when I would talk to high-level males, let's just say fluent males, I'd say, dude, look, can I be straight with you? And this is very hush-hush, so it's something I didn't always like talking about, but I would ask guys, I say, hey, I'm not trying to get in your business, but, how do you handle being super successful, having a lot of money, and, being with one girl? That seems like tough for me. And I get 3 answers. I get one guy's like, oh, I just cheat, bro. And I was like, bro,
that's not me.
That's just not. Yeah, I'm just never going to be that guy. That just does not feel in alignment with me to just lie. Like, I don't feel good about it at all. The second one was some guys are like, yeah, like I have multiple girlfriends. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then some guys are like, I just deal with it. Those were the most common responses I get. And I was like, man, that sounds terrible. Like, you just deal with it? And so for a couple of years, like I really struggled because I would talk to different guys, especially who, maybe were doing kind of the multiple girlfriends thing. And I thought maybe that was the direction I wanted to go. And because I was like, why not? Like, I make all this money. I've worked my ass off. Like, why should I, like, be settled for one girl? Like, who are they to tell me to settle down? Like, F them. Like, I make all this money, Yeah. It was just very kind of aggressive mentality. And I do have a hard time with that because at some point, it's like, I have worked hard for this. But I think at least where I've gotten on that, it might be helpful for some affluent men. Like sometimes people start a relationship thing. I'm like, I don't want to do that, but I do think it's hard because guys don't talk about it. But at least my take is that one of two things usually happen if you do that. Either one, the girl doesn't really like you that much. So like she's doing it, but like she don't really love you, dude. And to be frank, when you're in I've been in committed relationships, like really good girls, it just feels different. So that's number one. Number two is if she does do that, you're hurting her. Like I don't know, because like in my head, part of this journey I went through is I was like, there's 8 billion people on earth. There's gonna be one girl out there who like will get where I'm coming from and not judge me for it, like whatever. I don't know. And I think my honest take is it hurts them. Like I just don't think a girl who really loves you, really cares about you is ever gonna be okay with that. And I've seen guys maybe do it, but I'm like, I meet the girl and I'm like, dude, like it's not how you're saying. Like
Sure.
She don't like it. And so long story short, that has taken me to the point where I don't know the reason. And I would love to talk to the Supreme Creator one day to be like, why did you make guys this way? Because at least for me, I can't speak for everyone. For me, I'm a very ambitious guy and I have a lot of drive, and I'm very visually stimulated by girls. I'll just say that. And I don't think girls are as much. And so when I got to that conclusion, at least for me, I was like, hey, like it's probably better to be committed, because if you're not, you're either going to hurt her or she doesn't really like you. I kind of was like mad. Maybe to God, I guess you could say. I said, bro, like, what's the, like, why do you make guys who, I would say on average, men are like more visually stimulated, like where we see a girl and we're like, yeah, she's pretty hot, and girls like don't. I just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And that kind of takes me in where like I don't think about stuff too much because I'll get angry. But that was a really hard thing for me for the last couple of years, and the reason being is you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life. Like, how am I going to live my life?
Yeah.
Because it's two very different lifestyles.
Do you have a girlfriend now? Or?
I do, yeah.
How long have you been with her?
We've been on and off for 6 years.
Okay.
Poor girl. She's had to go through the whole thing. I never lied. I never, like, have cheated. I never, like, I like to be very upfront. But I just one day was sitting there, and she was upset. Like, we weren't really talking, and I don't know. I reached out to her and thought she'd be happy I reached out, and she was not happy. And I just sat there and thought, man, this has caused me so much bullshit. Yeah. Like, it just was like, this girl's matter, that girl's matter. And I think I can't remember the exact saying, but someone says, I think it's confusion usually means it's a bad decision. When you're not certain what to do, that usually means it's a bad decision. Like, clarity means it's a good decision. And I don't think, like, I'll at least say this. I don't think any person will say committing to one girl is a bad decision. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, dude, like, that's so, like, what are you crazy? But I definitely think when you talk about having multiple girls or something like that, there's definitely people who are like, yo, bro, that was a bad move. And it creates that, it creates that confusion, right? And I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is I think some guys, like, I think they're not willing to say that. I think they're not willing to admit, like, yeah, like, let's say in a perfect world, maybe I could, talk to girls whenever I wanted and, like, blah, blah, blah. But I think that. And I think it's not talked about enough in entrepreneurship, and it kind of irked me for a while. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, I didn't, like, quote unquote have multiple girlfriends at the same time, but I've talked to girls and I've talked to people, and it just felt that it cost me a lot of bullshit. And at the end of the day, I started thinking, man, like, I want a peaceful life. And if it's going to be this whole up and down roller coaster all the time, it can't be that good of a thing.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. And I don't know the relationship. I haven't met your girlfriend, but when you do meet that girl, that book becomes another book. You take your current book to then you go BC Tanner, BC Tanner.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go today. And if that day ever comes, man, you're coming right. You're going to sit back down with me because you're going to have a absolutely whole different outlook on things.
And like, to her credit and her defense, like, I feel bad for her because, like, part of my thoughts been like, oh, maybe she's the wrong girl or this or that, but I don't think magically I'm going to just meet a girl and then it's like, I'm not going to see other girls as attractive. I just think, like, ultimately that's part of being a man. Yeah. Like, you see girls, you think they're attractive, and it's like, how am I going to deal with that? And some guys, they deal with it that way, and some guys, they don't mess with it at all. And I think at least I've gotten to the conclusion that that's probably the better way. It's not the answer I was hoping for. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So I think when you're kind of hoping for another answer, you get a little biased and kind of trying to make that true. But at least for me, that was a very difficult part because I didn't feel like I had a lot of people to talk to. When I did talk to people, they judged me. And, ultimately, that's tough because you say that to someone, they're like, oh, this guy's freaking off his rocker. He's like, but it's just not very, I wish it was guys were more willing to talk about. I understand why they don't, because most people don't want their personal business out there for obvious reasons. But yeah, that was the last thing. Sorry that went on a tangent.
No, that makes sense.
That was a little tough for me.
So Tanner, I'll be your relationship counselor.
Okay, right?
I'm going to be your counselor at the moment. Like, words from the wise, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll make it more than 100 years old. But I've been through it. I've been married to my wife for since 07, 08. But the last 6 years of your life, it's been a whirlwind for you. You went from wanting to get there, getting there, not only getting there, but blowing the roof off of this business, right? To where you're chasing, you want to get there, then you're chasing money, you're buying expensive things, and then you're like, I don't need these things because these things don't make me, right? Yeah. Crazy parties, crazy money, right? And all of a sudden, it turns you into the guy you are today. So I feel like the guy you are today is a much different guy than you were 6 years ago.
Sure.
So I think what's your girlfriend's name?
Hansika.
Yeah. So if Hansika's, checking out the Joe show, the good words for both of you. Is that the guy you are today? She's been through a lot, right? That's 6 years.
She deserves a championship ring.
6 years. But if she could appreciate the guy you are today and not hang on to those things that you were, it'll make her respect you more, because I didn't know the old Tanner, but I know the new Tanner.
Yeah,
you've learned a lot, man. You're like a 33-year-old that's like you're in your mind, you're 45.
Yeah, she's trust me. She's MVP. She's the one who makes me question all this stuff, because every time I go down a different path and we'd break up, I'd be like, what am I doing? This girl loves me and she cares about me more than anyone and stuff like that. But I just bring it up because I want to help some young men with that, because it's not very much talked about, and it's different. Like, it's when you're 6 foot and you're jacked and you make a lot of money, like it's totally different than being like you're 4 foot and you make no money and you live like in Arkansas. Like, it's a totally different dynamic when you're turning stuff down because you want to, or you can, or you must, versus like it's not even an option for you. And I don't say that in a cocky way. It's just some guys, like, bro, like, that is not an option for you. You can't even do it. And so I think going through life and having power to do stuff and maybe finding restraint, like that takes some courage.
Sure.
It takes a massive decision, because at any time, if you don't make that decision, like, it's right there. And at least that was something I struggled with. I would say the reason, maybe, I don't know for sure why it was like a bigger thing for me, is because when guys ask me, people are like, what are your hobbies? What do you like? It used to be sports. But after sports and business, when I want to relax, I was like, yeah, I like girls, bro. Like, and I don't know if that's the main reason, but I think also, like, people have other hobbies. I envy them in the sense of, humans are all very different. We all have emotions. We all think differently. I think end of the day, just if you want peace in your life, like, try to be your best to other people. And then, like, getting multiple people like in a certain situation, like, that would make sense why it would cause more conflict, because humans are very diverse individuals. I wish I had more hobbies, because when I think about stuff I enjoy, like, I like traveling once in a while, not tons, because I like to work.
Sure.
I like to work. But usually when I would take breaks, like, I'd hang out with girls, and it wouldn't be in like a, destructive way or like using way. It's just like, yeah, like, I like girls. I would go on dates. I like talking to girls, stuff like that. And so that was something that I had to go through myself, though. And I didn't have a lot to, like, in terms of my dad, God bless him. My dad, was only with my mom. So, he was like, he couldn't relate, right? He couldn't relate. And that's probably good. But I think for most guys, if you go down that path, I actually had a friend who he met his wife, was married to her. They were only together for years. Then he actually went to her, had a conversation that he wanted to, like, see other women. And they did that. And now he's back. And that actually, I don't know. I think that might have put the kind of stamp of approval on my decision, because I'm thinking, man, I don't know the relationship, but man, if he had that and then he switched back after, and she stayed with him, which is crazy,
Sure.
right? Like, because she could have left for sure. I think that kind of put the stamp that there's probably something to that commitment, just like being committed to one girl and like having a family. And so, anyways, if anyone wants to talk about it, you can reach out to me. Hopefully it's a little woo-woo, so I get a little worried sometimes bringing it up. But that was definitely last 2 years of my life. I wouldn't say it's been business stuff. It's been like, how am I gonna be as a man? Like, who do I want to be? And I think one of the good and bad things about me is I kind of I see stuff through all the way to the end. I kind of, hey, is this the right thing to do?
You can overthink any situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is good and bad, right? You could overthink it, like, okay, so you got my wife and you got me, right? I don't like to think. I have a pretty clear mind. I don't like to think too much about things. I like to just do them. Quick thought, is this good for me? Let's do it. If I fail, what's the worst that can happen, right? Yeah. My wife will overthink it so much. She's probably not going to listen to the show. By the way, Tanner, your wives don't listen to the show, I guess. It's a common thing, whatever. Or maybe I'm not that good at the show. So, but it's funny because she will overthink things through and through, right? To where now she's got 20 things she's overthinking, right? And she can't make a decision. For me, I just go, let's do it. Let's start it.
Right.
The podcast. I did a show with my son and my father. It's called the Coffees for Closers.
Nice.
An old movie. Glenn Ross is the name of the movie. But we sat down and I said, let's, instead of going like doing something today or getting on our iPads, let's go do a podcast. Mm-hmm. So we sat down and we just talked about life, the three of us.
Nice.
I had him tell Joey some stories that Joey may have not known about my dad. We have a tight family, by the way.
That's
Italian,
good.
very
That's
Italian.
Good. That's good.
Our family dinners are like Goodfellas, cutting,
love that.
cutting garlic in jail. I mean,
love
that's our family,
Yeah.
But we did the show, and then I said, this was not that hard to do. I'm going to do a show. So I sent, a logo. I sent some couple ideas to my girls, and I said, give me a couple designs. So that's hence the reason why I could just make a quick decision, and I could just do it. So sometimes you got to do it. Overthinking sometimes could sort of cloud your thinking. I try to just go. Let's go. Let's do it. And if it fails, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I think...
spent a little bit on a neon sign, but
yeah,
I'm going to do it.
I would agree with you. And for anyone listening, that is the right way, like 100%. I think with kind of the girl stuff that I've been thinking about, I think the hard part is it affected other people, and so you're kind of, it's like usually I'd be the same. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna try it, but the problem I think that I didn't anticipate is bringing other people into it, and so now you're affecting them. And even if you're being honest, because that's what I thought, I was like, if I'm honest, if I tell the truth, like, no problem. It would still hurt people.
Sure.
And that is kind of where I started thinking, man, like, it's like, even if I'm honest, even if I say the truth, even if I tell them where I'm at, even if they're not judging me, like, it still hurts people. And
you recognize it now, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and so, but I'm not sure what the purpose is. Like, I would love to ask God one day, be like, hey man, like, is there a particular reason like you made us like this way and we're not supposed to do that, or it doesn't work out? Like, why girls think this way? But it was, I would say, for most people, like, make the decision very quickly, like you said, and then if you're not sure if it's the right decision, that usually means it's not.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like, no one's going to be like, oh, you committed to your girl for 40 years. Oh, wow, dude, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I think that kind of brought me to that conclusion too, because if it was a good decision, like, I feel like there'd be more people on board. I'm not saying you have to do what people say, but there'd be more people on board. There's enough success in business that even if someone says, oh, it's a bad idea, it's like, yeah, it's just you, dude. It's like, it's not business is a bad decision. I think in that thing there's not. So
sometimes we carry these things with us. We carry the fight we got into in 7th grade, the time we got bullied when we were in 8th grade, the time where we wanted the girl, but we were too afraid to talk to her when we were in 6th grade. In high school, we were new to a school, and we got kind of picked on. We sort of carry all these things, and I'm so big on just letting things go now. Like, if I feel a certain way, I just let it go without fumes. Tanner,
that takes
I don't like to come out swinging. You know what I mean? Now, the old Joe might have come out swinging. So sometimes picking up the phone and just calling people really gets a lot off your chest. Like, I was telling my kids a story, and I didn't tell them this side of the story, but I was talking about when I was younger. I got bullied. I had some pretty big grill, on me. Like, not a Wu-Tang grill, Tanner. You know what I'm saying? But I had some pretty good buck teeth when I was a kid. And that was when the Karate Kid was all out. This is back in the 80s and 80s. And I kind of got picked on. And then I kind of got a little big one summer. And I kind of got a little taller than everybody else. Right. So I didn't go on like a bully beating up frenzy. But certainly there was this one kid that I did beat up one day. And probably really not for any reason. It was just kind of, I was in 7th grade, he was in 8th grade. Back then, you could do this. It wasn't on YouTube. You know what I mean? His mom might have called my mom and yelled at her on the phone. But, I wouldn't have gone viral. Nowadays, you'll get in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely.
A lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I did that. And that's one of those things that is sort of I hang on to. It's like the kid that I beat up when I was in 7th grade. I'm going to reach out to this kid. And I'm going to tell him I'm sorry. Think about that. So I was probably 12.
Yeah.
37 years ago. He didn't reach back to me yet, but I'm going to call that kid and just, and say, man, 37 years later, I still remember what I did to you. And I'm sorry. He was bigger than me. I wasn't bullying him, but I was doing it because I wanted to stand out, So it's like sometimes picking up the phone and just reaching out does get that, just lets it go. It's gone.
Have you read The Mastery of Love? Have you read that book?
No.
That's one of the things in there when it says you just have a thought, just do it. Long story short, it's my favorite book ever, of all time, Mastery of Love. And in the book, it's like talking about how to love people. And there's really like 3 quick lessons I'll share. Like the first one is that most people don't love themselves, and that's why they can't find love, or like they get in bad relationships. So, for example, let's say this is probably the main lesson I'll talk about. Most people, let's say you live in a house and every day you have a buffet. It's like you get whatever you want. You're like, I want pizza. You get whatever you want. Someone shows up to your door and they say, hey, if you do this thing, I'll give you a pizza. You're thinking, like, I'm good. But the point the book made was most people, they don't love themselves, aka they don't have the buffet. They're kind of not certain about themselves. They're not sure where they're going. Someone comes to the door and gives them some love or like some admiration, and they're like, hey, I'll give you this pizza if you like, you don't do that, you don't do this. And then that's how people get in quote unquote bad relationships. And one of the things it teaches in the book is that you have to love yourself before you love someone else. And if you love someone, you're not trying to make them change. So it brought up an example. If you go to pick up a dog from the shelter and you like brown dogs and you see a black dog, you don't try to make the black dog brown. It's just like, I like brown dogs. And sometimes in dating, people will try to change someone.
That's right.
And there's some cool lessons in there. You guys can go read it.
That sounds great, because that does happen. It's like, listen, I like to golf. I don't golf that much, but I'm just saying, if I golfed every day when you met me, right, and I still golf every day, that's how I was when you met me. Yeah. So you got to be okay with that.
Exactly.
That's how it is, right? If you fall in love with a girl that she has a certain routine, don't let her change that routine. Yeah. Like I tell my 14-year-old son, I said, Joey, listen, you're an athlete. The kid he's an athlete, Tanner. Mm-hmm. Plays varsity as a freshman. He's 6'3". He's a beast. Got good hair.
Beast. I didn't know he's on varsity.
Flowy hair. I mean, the dude's all my kids are pretty cool kids. All three of them. But I told him, I said, buddy, don't stop, your drive, because he's got a girlfriend now. Yeah. 14. Yeah. He got girlfriends. Yeah. So I said, buddy, listen, she likes you because of your drive. Don't let the drive go. Right. You just keep doing what you're doing. She will love you. If you're not going to miss practice because you want to go hang out with her. I'll bring you to her right after practice. You know what I mean? But if you love someone and they do certain things, you got to just respect it and just be a part of it, right? You can't change. If he changes doing what he loves to do, and now he hangs out with her all the time, he loses all of his friends. Yeah. And now she breaks up with him, and he's solo Joe.
That's why I like that book, because it explains it with animals in a way that it relates it back to humans. It even had one where it said, let's say you go home in a bad mood and your dog comes up to play with you, and you're just kind of annoyed, so you don't say anything. Eventually your dog is just like, yeah. But humans, they're like, oh, what did I do? Like take it. So it has a lot of lessons in that book that I thought was very helpful.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I might have written. I feel like I might have written that book. I might have recited half of it.
It's one of my favorite books, and it taught me a lot about like how love's supposed to work in relationships.
Yeah, even in work too. So it's like we have this business, right? In my business is a lot different than yours. There's not 14,000. Companies like you near you. There's 14,000 realtors in this area.
Wow,
which is insane.
Is it really?
Which is insane. When I moved here, the population was
crazy.
800, which is insane. So you almost have to find a way to love your competition too. Because when I was younger, you would say, why is he doing this? He ain't doing nothing. He's not working harder than me. He's not doing anything, right? But then at a certain point, you go, all right, well, that's what he does to do what he does. I can't hate on that. Yeah. I got to be happy with that. Yeah. Like in my neighborhood where I live, there's another guy that's in there. He's kind of a cool dude, to be honest with you, Tanner. He sells real estate. Mm-hmm. He's not a bad guy. Get along with him fine. We call and joke. If he gets a listing and I don't, or if I get it and he don't, we just call back and forth. Hey, man, how the hell did you get Mrs. Smith's property? Oh, nice. I've been working with her for 10 years. So we have this conversation. But it's hard to sort of embrace other people's success, So it's like me and him have a great relationship. Now, I will tell you, there was a woman that was in our development before me. Mm-hmm. She was the first one in, right? Mm-hmm. I moved in. She hated me, Tanner. Oh, wow. And I don't really do shit to make people hate me, because I don't really do anything that I don't get really jealous. I don't really say anything. I just kind of stay in my own lane. And I was kind of bothered. I'm like, why is she mad at me? Just work harder. Yeah. All she's got to do is work harder. Yeah. If somebody does more than you and you don't like that they're doing what they're doing, you can't hate. No. Can't hate, participate, right? Just work harder.
100%.
That's the way it goes. A buddy of mine, and this lesson is for people that look at other businesses and they want to do better, but sometimes they want to hate too. Oh, they're not doing what I'm doing.
So it's a waste of energy. The problem, I just think it's a waste of energy. Whenever I see someone, like if someone comments on my ads and they're like, your ad sucks, I'm like, okay, so you make less than me and you're talking trash. Like what? Like you just pass the ad up. It's
just
like
chill.
It makes no difference, and like you're taking
it makes
your
them
eye
look
off the
bad
prize.
too. On social media, it's different because you could somebody could be a keyboard warrior, right, and send you a message. But they wouldn't mess with you if they said it to your face.
Right.
I could assure that you're a big dude, Tanner. They wouldn't be saying that. But sometimes that does happen sometimes. And people do that. But for me, I always want to get along with my competition. And I do. I have, tons of realtors around me. Just won Realtor of the Year, by the way.
Oh, congrats.
But they take the top 1% and
is that like in the nation or where's the state?
Well,
where's that?
That's Lee and Collier County.
Good for you, man.
But I do get the highest realtor in the country with my company. There's like 1,000
I
offices.
didn't realize the competition was that high.
Tanner, it's crazy. Now in real estate, though, I will tell you, not everybody sells a lot. 14,000 agents last year, 64% didn't have one sale.
Oh wow.
So
because like I'm assuming because it's probably a lot like my industry where the barrier to entry is so low that quote unquote everyone can do it. But not really like there's not like actually a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
Really. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you get your license, your real estate license, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to go out and sell I can sell. Dude, I can sell.
Yeah.
I'm going to be great at selling real estate. But it's not about how you can sell. It's about how you can stand the rain when it rains.
Sure.
Because when the rain comes hard, and like in bad markets, dude, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
You got to be able to withstand that rain. It's like a driver's license, right? You get a driver's license, that don't mean you can drive. You might be a terrible driver.
Yeah.
They give you a license. It's the same in real estate.
Yeah, okay.
I think in 2027 they're probably going to include a real estate license with your driver's license or something crazy because everybody's going to have their license at some point. But there was another competitor of mine. His name's Michael Burke.
Okay.
At the time, Michael Burke was up at the top, right? Michael Burke was the man. We were friends, and every time I go to my mailbox, I saw a postcard from Michael Burke in my mailbox, and he's a buddy of mine. And I said to Mike, he don't live in my community.
Sure.
I said, Mike, stop sending this shit to me. Buddy, go in somebody else's community. We're friends. I don't want it to affect our friendship. I'm starting to get bothered by it. This is about 15 years ago. He says, Joe, it's competition. It's friendly competition. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just go out there, man. Go market in my communities. Go market out there a little bit more and broaden your area.
Right.
And that was a good lesson for me because I did. Now, however, I did take it to the extreme because he lived in a development, and I think I sent about 100 postcards in his development in 1 year. I mean, I was just killing him. Every time he'd send one, I'd send a bigger one. He'd send one, Tanner. I could flip it open, and make it a big. But we had some fun doing that. But it helped me broaden my market. Now I'm anywhere from downtown Fort Myers to downtown Naples. I have, 75 listings in between, everywhere. So things like that have helped me sort of broaden my horizon. Getting along with the competition, don't hate, stay humble, and just work. That's it.
Yeah, and I think out of all, like, everything you said is true. It's just the big thing is it takes your time off doing something that's going to move the needle. That's the thing for me. So if it's not going to move the needle, I just don't want to spend time on it. I remember even early in my career, like, people will be like, oh, they're copying your funnel. They're copying your ads. They're copying your social media posts. Like, I don't give a crap anymore.
Yeah.
Early in my career, I'm like, oh, they're copying me. It's like
send them a cease and desist.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter because
that's
like,
good to be copied. That
it's like
means
because
that you got
one, like there's not much there's not much you can do. Like people like want to go the legal route with some stuff. I'm like, dude, like it's a funnel. Like they don't care. And then number two is it just takes your eye off the prize. Like you're stop focusing on what's going to move the business, and it doesn't really matter. In the grand scheme, there's so many people out there. There's so many people to sell. It just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're right. You just got to just keep pushing, man. Stay humble. Keep pushing, man. Get them other books out. That's something I'm going to start doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of grow the brand. I'm working on some things.
We'll talk. I like it, man. I heard good things for sure.
We'll talk for sure, you know. But man, seriously, dude, great to have you here today, man.
Yeah.
You know, there was a little cluster of time when you were talking about your time, right? From what 2015 to 24, that range.
Yeah,
I wanted to stop you and ask you about a certain time frame, but you had me intrigued, so I didn't want to interrupt you. There was a time period when you were trying to figure out what you were going to do for work.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Tell me why this business?
I wish I had a better answer, but my mentor, he just said, look, dude, he said, you've been in fitness your whole life. You're going to start a fitness business. And because I didn't have any clue about business or anything else, I just said, okay. You know, I think sometimes the one lesson you could take out of that is sometimes people will overthink. It's like, dude, just pick and start, and then the answer will unfold. And so for me, that's the Joey P theory. Yeah, maybe I met someone yesterday who sells products. I've never sold a product. Like a product it was like electrolyte water and stuff like that. Yeah. You do real estate. I don't know much. I've invested in real estate, but me in terms of selling it, don't have a clue or marketing for it. I'm sure there's similarities, right? But what if I just started and I heard this podcast and I was like, hey, I want to get in real estate. Just start. And as I've built these businesses and I've learned more skills, now I can maybe go into other industries and do other stuff. But yeah, it was just honestly my mentor. And I would say to most people, look at the skills you currently have and see if that's something you can start with. Yeah. Because, if you know something, especially like service industry, if you know something, it was shocking to me how many people would pay me money to teach them what I thought was basic. That was something I had to learn early on is I would know something and I wouldn't put it in a portal or, a video about it. And then they'd have questions. I go, bro, the funnel. Okay, so easy. Do this, this, and this. And they would be just mesmerized.
Yeah, you had an impact. You didn't even know how good you were.
Right. So
it's like you could throw a 100-mile an hour fastball.
Yeah.
Just didn't even know how to throw a baseball.
Yeah, but
that's how good you were at that.
Right. So if you grow up and you have, a sports background or a fitness background, maybe start with fitness.
Yeah.
If you have a father who's done real estate, maybe you start in real estate.
That's right.
I think looking to see where people are having success and then what skills you have and then just start there because starting is not the hardest part picking is not the hardest part. It's the starting. And when you start, what's going to happen is either it's going to work or it's not. If it doesn't work, you're going to get the lessons. You're going to move on to the next thing. I just think a lot of people make it a bigger deal than it is. And I have to remind myself of that because as I've had a lot of success, I want to move into new things, right? And so for me to move into new things, it means I actually have to actually do it. So for a while, I bought a technology company. I have another one that's 2 technology companies. They're in my portfolio. And I've created one. And I was like, oh, but I don't know anything about technology. I've never done this. What if it doesn't work? All the same questions, right? And I was like, I just remember kind of these thoughts. I was like, bro, just do it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
As long as it's not something where you sink all your life savings then you can get in trouble.
Be smart about it. But I just think not caring about failing and just trying new stuff, that's the secret. And I even see, this is totally random, but DJs. I don't have a desire to be a DJ, but sometimes you see a DJ that comes out of nowhere and they're like, oh yeah, I was making music for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 10 years you were doing that? And it's just, they just were willing to start. They had no notoriety. No one knew who they were.
Yeah.
They didn't really have even a parent or a friend in it, but they just started. And I think that's just where greatness comes from. Just start and you'll learn. Even if it doesn't work out, you're going to learn stuff. So that was my answer.
I love that.
It was just my mentor.
Well, it's almost like you didn't know how powerful your message was. And that's cool because, I looked at some of your earlier Instagram stuff, when it took off.
Yeah, the fitness stuff.
You're just, you're still in great shape, obviously.
Shredded,
but at that time, you weren't building, it's hard to do more than one thing 100%.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Yeah. But at the time, I was looking at the old pictures of you. You look like Bruce Lee. You're absolutely shredded.
At that time.
A bigger version.
Yeah, that time when you saw those pictures.
I'll say Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, mostly what I was doing at that time is I was just trying to get a shred. I was just most of my days was not eating food, working out, and then taking pictures.
And then when you get 100,000 views on a picture of yours, you're like, damn.
Yeah,
if I could only get that into business, right?
Yeah, like, and that was modeling. That was when I was professional modeling, and it's a dead end. Like, one of the reasons I got into online fitness is I was really into fitness, but I actually went in as a personal trainer. I was like, okay, you guys make no money.
Yeah.
I did professional modeling. I was like, you guys make no money. So I realized, I said, the only way I can make millions of dollars in fitness is online. And so that actually, when my mentor gave me that advice, it actually like hit, because if you're in fitness, for example, you're wasting your time in terms of money if you don't go online. There's no way. The best trainers in Miami make $250 a year, and they work all day every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I see them. They're in there all day, every day.
What's the one guy out there? He says, if you make more than $150,000.
Oh, John, yeah. He used to be a client of mine. Yeah. John's hilarious. He's killing it though.
Yeah.
And you know, I look at his marketing, and sometimes I'm like, I don't understand why he's doing so well. But yeah, that's John. And you know, kudos to John though. I will say this, because a lot of mentors try to take all the credit for someone. John's been doing that for 7 years.
Yeah.
And he stuck with it, and he's gotten better, and he found something that works. Yeah. So good for him. But yeah, his whole thing is he sells to, you know, wealthy entrepreneurs, and he crushes it.
Cool. I thought it was kind of cool because I at first I thought
it used to be $100,000, and then he raised it.
Yeah. At first, he's got to factor inflation, right?
Yeah.
But when I first heard that, I thought, I don't know about that. But then I kind of heard him talking about his story, and I thought that's pretty cool. I mean, the approach works for him, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, if he's making that, then
at end of the day, like if you look at his marketing, you could see like, you know, some of I'm like, I don't know, like should you be showing the Lambo? Should be, but if you're spending $100,000 and you're making $400,000, like whatever the number is, like it's working.
Yeah.
And so I think for him, he just found something that worked.
Good guy though.
Yeah, he's a super cool guy. He's got a daughter. His wife actually helps in the business. And like the thing I'm really happy for is he had a little bit of a harder journey. Like he didn't even really have success in business. I want to say, I don't want to misspeak, but I want to say in his 30s. And now his company is printing cash. And they were doing more than mine, like $3 to $4 million a month, I think. And
well, you know what's cool is that you smiled when I brought him up. And that's because that's the way it is.
Yeah, because
you gotta embrace.
There's food out there for everyone. It's just people with small minds think there's not. So they're like, oh, if John's getting a lot of clients, I can't get a lot of clients. It's not like that. There's a limited amount of money.
Yeah.
Like there's more money printed every single day. So when I see someone who's doing well, and I know how much work goes into it, I'm super happy for him, because I'm like, dude, you've been doing this he's been doing it for 7 years. So what you don't see is the 5 or 6 years where I think even when he was working with me, he was doing $50,000 a month.
Yeah.
50, which is not bad, but it's a far cry from 3 to 4 million. So yeah, I'm super happy for him. And when I have people who work with me, and let's say they move on and later in their career, they have even more success, like, I just think it's childish to hate on them.
I respect you even more after hearing you say that, because a client one time, they interviewed 2 realtors, right?
Yeah.
Me and this other lady, and they hired me. And they said to me, you know why we hired you, Joe? Because when we asked you what you can do versus your competition, you complimented her. She killed you. She killed you. So I said, oh, that's pretty cool. Got the listing. Yeah, and that's kind of cool. I mean,
it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I just wish people could understand that. It just doesn't matter. And a lot of times it's because you have inferior skills, and so you're very defensive.
That's right.
And it's just, you just got to work on yourself, like get better.
Yeah. So Tanner, take me through a day of Tanner.
Yeah.
What morning routine? I want to hear it.
This week was crazy specifically.
Take me through an average day.
Okay, an average day. Oh, yeah. So average day is I'll wake up at probably 5 or 5:30. Like usually maybe 4:30. I usually will get to the gym at 5, and then I work out for 2.5 hours. The reason it's usually 2.5 is it's really good stress relief for me, and I also I'd say I go a little overboard, meaning I'm the type of mentality, hey, I want to make sure I'm doing the absolute most I can to grow, and I do cardio, right?
Sure.
So I'm in there quite a bit. Then I go home, I'll take a shower, I'll start working. Then we have a team meeting at 9:45. And then the rest of the day I'm working, various things, right? So if you guys were asking, it could be a podcast, it could be shooting content, it could be manager stuff, it could be creating something. There's a million things I do. I'll usually work till 7, sometimes later. I work a lot. And then I get ready for bed and I pass out. Now, you know, when I have kids and stuff like that, maybe it'll change. But for me, like there's always something to do in the business.
Yeah.
And because I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to forge ahead, to me, the question, at least for me, I think some people are never do enough, and then they always think they do too much. I'm the opposite, where I do too much probably, but I always think I never do enough.
Sure.
And I think that's part of why I've been successful, because there's always stuff to do. Even if you're ahead, it's like, hey, I'm ahead on YouTube videos. I'm ahead on this. Like, get more ahead. Get further ahead.
Yeah.
And so I work quite a bit, but that's a typical day, yeah.
How about at night? Can you turn the switch off at night? Get the thoughts stopped?
Yeah, I think usually, because I'm so tired by that time, I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually by 7 o'clock, either I'm going to either turn on Netflix, or I'm probably just going to lay in bed, and then I go to sleep an hour and a half after that, or I watch something. I usually don't do anything work related past 7. It's like even reading, because reading, it takes a little bit of energy, I think, if you're going to read a book and you're trying to learn. And so by 7 o'clock, my brain is completely gassed. I mean, I've been going since 5 a.m. plus a workout. And I think the workouts also play a factor into it, because if I didn't work out for as long as I would do, I don't think I'd be as tired. But I go hard. I really just want to leave it all on the field. That's the biggest thing for me.
How about at night? You said Netflix. Shows? Yeah. You got shows or movies?
No, movies. I hate shows, because you start watching the show and then you have to finish it, right? And then you just get addicted. So usually what I'll do is I'll have a movie, Netflix or Amazon Prime. If there's no good movies, then I'll usually play a game with my girl. And probably, to be frank, that's better. Like, whenever you just start watching movies, that's a pretty low form of connection. So when I'm trying to really connect with her, we actually will usually play question games. So it's like one of those cards that has a question. Yeah. Because those actually will stimulate.
Brain stimulating.
Yeah, and it stimulates conversation and stuff like that. Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah.
What's one of your favorite movies?
Ooh.
All right, let me give you a genre, all right?
Okay.
Comedy. Let's go comedy.
Oh, man. It'd probably have to be a romantic comedy. I'm trying to think of
some. How about I'm trying to think of some good romantic comedies.
Yeah, like a romantic.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 days or whatever. Some of those.
We just watched one.
Amy Schumer's got some good ones out. She's hilarious.
Yeah, there's a new one that just came out that was pretty hilarious. It was like something. It was two parents, or a sister had her sister's wedding, and the dad had his daughter's wedding, and they were at the same place, and it was like the whole movie is about that. I don't watch a ton though, so my girl will make me watch The Notebook and all this other stuff.
Yeah, those are good. Yeah. You'll probably tear up a little bit. I don't want to cry.
Every once in a while, my
mom says, Joe, you should watch this movie. It'll make you cry. Mom, I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch that. I want to watch old school.
Yeah, I'm a
Wedding
big action or thriller guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about comedies like Wedding Crashers, Old School? What are some of your favorite comedies?
I'm trying to I'm going blank at the moment.
They definitely don't make them like they used to make them.
Yeah, I'm going blank at the moment only because I don't watch a ton of
All right, how about Dumb and Dumber? Have you seen Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber. Yeah,
I've seen that movie 100. I've seen it 100. I could recite that whole movie.
Yeah.
Old School, Wedding Crashers, Step Brothers.
Some of those are pretty funny. Step Brothers, I like that one. That one is good. Yeah, I've watched Step
When
Brothers.
they're on the bunk bed and the bunk bed collapses on them, it's pretty funny.
Yes.
How about music? What do you listen to?
Music, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So when I go to the gym, I usually am blasting a podcast. It's usually either Modern Wisdom, Diary of a CEO, Andrew Huberman. I like to learn, and so because especially I'm at the gym, I can listen to 1 to 2 hour podcasts, no problem. Not an issue.
So that's your hearing people. You don't need Metallica playing in your ears.
Not when I'm working out. Now if I am trying to get, if I'm just trying to pump myself up or something, you're gonna laugh, but I like Drake, and then I also like electronic music, depending. But usually the electronic music is very specific. It might be, I don't know if people are going to know these artists, but Illenium or something like that. It's very specific music. And usually the electronic music, it'll be the electronic, but it has an artist that they've mixed the song with, right? Yeah. So there's something like that. But usually I'm listening to podcasts, and I would say the reason is because the music, ultimately, I just look at it as it's kind of negligible, meaning I'm not really getting anything out of this. When I'm at the gym for 2 to 3 hours, I feel that's such a long time. I need to be doing something productive. And so I like having my mind stimulated either by something fitness related. Sometimes I'll watch Joe Rogan, for example, if he has Donald Trump on, someone I like. But usually it's like Diary of a CEO or Modern Wisdom. Modern Wisdom I like a lot. He brings on very intellectual people, and so there's always intellectual conversations, which I like a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. How about words of wisdom for the audience, viewers?
You know, I get asked this a lot, and I would say the number one response I have is to hire someone sooner. And the reason I say that, if you don't know what to do, just hire someone. Like, pay them whatever they say. It doesn't matter. Just do it. And the reason I say that is from 22 to 25, I made $2,000. And I was actually trying to build my business. And the reason I didn't pay someone is I made the excuse I couldn't afford it. And as an adult, like, you got to be resourceful. That can't be an excuse. You have to do whatever it takes. And from 25, on, I invested $5,000. I had put $3,000 or $4,000 on a credit card. I paid the rest in cash. It was all the cash I had. And then I went on to do $25 million a year in the 4th year. And the reason was when I finally had direction, like, I just didn't know what I was doing. So let's say, hey, Tanner, I'm going to start a real estate business. I don't really know where to start, but if I paid you and you said, okay, so you have these things, you start moving much faster. And a lot of people, they either will pay one person and they never pay another person. So the first 6 months, I paid 5 people. Why? In 30 days, I was working so hard that I said, if this doesn't work in the first 30 days, it's wrong. And a lot of people have a problem with that. Yeah. They think that when they pay someone or a coach, consultant, whatever, that it should work. And I'm going, dude, is every girl you date you're gonna marry? I'm like, what kind of mindset is that? And so I've just, over 6 years, I've spent about $3 million of my own money investing in mentors, coaches, consultants, and like, so that's why I move fast, because they're like, you either spend time or money. And I've gotten to the point where I'd rather spend money than my time. And when you pay someone who knows something, they usually package it in a very succinct way. So if you're going on YouTube, they're like, oh, you could just YouTube that. I'm like, dude, you'd have to watch 20 YouTube videos, pick out which of those videos is correct, and then break that. Like, I'm like, that is not a strategy. Right. So yeah, if I could give anyone advice, it would just be find a mentor and pay them, because a lot of us, we can get to where we're trying to go if we're just willing to humble ourselves and we're willing to ask people who've been where we want to be. Because anything you want in this life, there's someone who's where you want to be. Yeah. And I just wish I had humbled myself and paid someone sooner.
Well, I think that's big, mentoring. It's almost like somebody could tell you what to do. They may not know what to do in their own life, but sometimes they're better at telling you what to do. Yeah. That's how it goes. Yeah. It's like a baseball coach. Yeah. That don't mean they can hit a baseball or they can hit a curveball. You know what I mean? It just means that they can help you with your mindset. But Tanner, man, great today, buddy. I really appreciate you. And,
thank you.
And I feel like today, the final thoughts of this episode is, it's to react. It's to do something. If you have something in your mind that you want to do, you got to just do it. If there's 50 things that you got to do, you got to find a way to check off 48 or 49 of them and just pick one and start from there. Because the more thoughts you have in your mind, the more mind fog you're going to have. It's going to be hard to make a decision. So if you can pick something you love and do it, and even if it's something you did wrong, you could unwind that by picking up the phone and calling someone that you did something wrong to in the past. All those little thoughts in your mind, it's all just mind fog, right? If you can get rid of all those thoughts, you can by a phone call, by reaching out. But the show is about the grind. It's fun. It's meeting new people. I mean, developed a good friend today. Yeah. I mean, I could see now that you're up at 5 a.m. and I'm up at 5. If I text you at 5:15, but I'm expecting a response, But it's all about just doing what you got to do. And, sitting down with successful people. I mean, Tanner, you knew right off the bat at a young age, you made it happen. I mean, my hats off to you. It took me a long time to realize how my voice impacts people. Sometimes people have a voice that they never realize that they impact anybody, right? So the sooner you can realize it, the more people you can impact. When it is time to go, you know that you've impacted a pretty good amount of people. And that's what it's all about. So I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Tanner, explain to the viewers where they can find you, how they can reach you.
Yeah, guys. So what I would have you do is if you have any questions, just find me on Instagram, DM me, Tanner.Chidester. The name of the Joe Pavich show, put that in there. And that will be the best way so I know where you came from. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. So Instagram at Tanner.Chidester, and then just shoot me a DM with Joe and his last name Pavich. Did I say it right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll know you came from here.
It's great time with this guy today. Hats off. Listen, to reach me, just, you can get on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, social media, the Joe Pavich Podcast, joepavichjr.com. And I hope you enjoy the show. Love to hear your feedback.